Most welcome to Historiespanarna, History Reconnaissance, and Disaster at the D-Day Dress Rehearsal. This is Slapton Sands, a shingle beach in Devon, England. In the spring of 1944, this was the scene for the largest military training event before the Allied invasion of Normandy, France. One could call this exercise a grand dress rehearsal. Slapton Sands was similar to one of the American designated invasion beaches in Normandy, with the code name Utah. The local population of Slapton Sands had been evacuated, and its beaches and the bay beyond, Lime Bay, would be the scene for several large exercises that involved up to 30,000 troops. On the 27th and 28th of April 1944, this would be the scene for two terrible and very costly events. So stay with us for this story, and please subscribe to our channel and join us on our journey in history. The code name for this D-Day rehearsal was Exercise Tiger, and General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Supreme Allied Commander, wanted this exercise to be as realistic as possible. He insisted that live ammunition be used instead of blanks, so that his soldiers could see and feel what the real battlefield looked like. To replicate the channel crossing, the assault troops were taking on a winding route through Lime Bay. General Eisenhower wanted his men to experience the rough seas. Before the landing, there was to be a naval artillery bombardment of the beach, and during the landing itself, troops placed on land playing the role of German defenders were to fire live rounds over the heads of the incoming men to simulate real battlefield conditions. On April 22nd and 25th, 1944, American forces engaged in marshalling and embarkation drills at ports including Plymouth and Brixham. This phase focused on preparing troops and equipment for amphibious operations. The troops for Exercise Tiger embarked on landing ship tanks, primarily at the port of Plymouth in Devon, England. More specifically, the embarkation took place at several locations around Plymouth Sound, including Stonehouse Creek, Millway Docks, and Devonport Naval Base. On April 26, the first wave of assault troops boarding their lander ship tanks and set sail, simulating a channel crossing by taking a circuitous route through Lime Bay to arrive off Slapton Sands at first light on April 27th. The first phase of the exercise went without incident. Trouble began on the morning of 27th of April, when some of the ships participating in the exercise fell badly behind schedule, forcing the American Rear Admiral Don Pardee Moon to delay the entire exercise by 1 hour. The landing was now to take place at 8:30 a.m. instead of 7:30. Unfortunately, this crucial information was not properly relayed to all ships. Some of the landing crafts, unaware of the rescheduling, landing on the beach just when the rescheduled naval bombardment began, raining shells down on the men. Then, for some unknown reason, the mock German troops on land began mowing down their comrades on the beach with gunfire. Hundreds of men were killed on the beach that day, yet there is not a single official mention of the incident in army records. On the afternoon of April 27, 1944, thousands of men began boarding 8 landing tank ships at Plymouth and Brixham. They were about to embark on a full dress rehearsal for D-Day on the beach at Slapton Sands, England. American soldiers were in full combat gear below in the tank deck, along with their vehicles. LSTs were loaded with smaller amphibious vehicles, tanks, jeeps, weapons and trucks that were full of fuel and ammunition. The sailors and officers were at their posts as they set sail. The ships were under way to meet and form one convoy in Lime Bay. The distance from Lime Bay to Slapton Sands was the approximate time it would take to make the crossing to Utah Beach on D-Day. 9. German E-boats, or Schnellboote as the Germans called them, had left Cherbourg in France shortly after midnight, avoiding the British motor torpedo boats watching the port area and patrols in the English Channel. Around 0130 hours, 6 E-boats of the 5th S-boat flotilla, commanded by Korvettenkapitän Bernd Klug, saw 8 dark ships and split into 3 pairs to attack with torpedoes. All of the American ships arrived at approximately 2 a.m. on April 28th in Lime Bay and formed one long convoy as they began their journey back to Slapton Sands. Suddenly, 4 of the German E-boats approached the convoy and began firing on the ships. General quarters was sounding on all the ships, but LSTs had little firepower and protection against these fast-moving boats. Initially, their torpedoes missed hitting the LSTs because of their flat-bottom hulls. Survivors from the tank decks recounted stories of hearing the torpedoes scraping the bottom of the hull. Gunfire was exchanged between the E-boats and the LSTs. The E-boats quickly made adjustments, and LST 507 at the back of the convoy took a direct hit and was in flames and sinking. LST 531, in the middle of the convoy, then took direct hits from 2 torpedoes. She would sink within 6 minutes. LST 289, in front of LST 507, was the 3rd and final ship that was hit with a torpedo. LST 289 did not sink, but took extensive damage to the stern and suffered the loss of life of 13 men, and many were injured. LSTs remaining afloat followed orders and moved out in a zigzagging pattern as they began making their way to the nearest port. During the E-boat attack, LST 507 was sunk by torpedoes. LST 531 was also sunk with heavy loss of life. LST 289 was damaged by torpedo but did not sink. 639 soldiers and sailors lost their lives in this tragedy. The waters were frigid, and hypothermia quickly set in. Soldiers, carrying their heavy gear in backpacks, did not receive instructions on the proper use of their life preservers and drowned. There were not enough lifeboats, and the surface of the water was in flames from the burning fuel. Those that survived were taken to various established and temporary hospitals. They were told never to speak of what happened under threat of court-martial because of the secrecy required for D-Day.
That's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.